Il va se relever, Kirsipu ne veut pas passer. C'est Casper qui prend l'initiative. Stels s'est enfermé dans la roue de Cipollini. Avec Cipollini, oh quel sprint extraordinaire que gagne Stels! Stels devant Cipollini, Zabel, victoire belge de Tom Stels.
And they just pulled full and they broke the group in pieces. I think we left with 15-20 riders. Ballerini, Taffi, Museu, Peters was in, Bomas was in. So it was really a strong team. But also Cipollini was in. Yeah, you have to be careful that you don't burn too many young guys on an early age. It's not so easy. Not everybody is Calder Remco.
The singular goal of this podcast show is really to bring you various stories from the world of Castelli as we are joined by cyclists from all levels and disciplines. Together, we'll explore the best practices for peak performance, discuss how to dress for racing and training in cold and hot weather, share riding stories, and hear firsthand about new and innovative products in the works. So, if you're new to the show, make sure to browse through the list of past episodes, as I'm sure you will find plenty of stories that will catch your interest. And as we just hit 200,000 downloads in our first year of the show, an important cornerstone, we have decided to give away 2 VIP hospitality tickets inside the iconic Roubaix Velodrome for when this year's Paris-Roubaix will take place on April the 7th. The only thing you'll have to do to participate is really to head over to our YouTube channel, if you're not already there, and leave a comment on your all-time favorite Paris-Roubaix story or moment, maybe the sector, or a favorite classic couple rider of all time. We'll draw the 2 winners on March 26. And for those of you who haven't watched the Roubaix from the inside of the velodrome, I can assure you it's something special, as you'll be watching the television pictures on the big screen all day, and as the riders approach the iconic velodrome, you will watch the leaders bump over the final sector and turn right into the velodrome. And at that moment, you will drop your eyes from the big screen down to the spot where they will appear. The point where the pavement ends and concrete begins, the right-hand corner onto the velodrome, and to me, probably the greatest corner in pro cycling. All the noise, the banging on the publicity boards, the announcer, the holes of fans booming into an amphitheater of concrete all at once. I even get goosebumps now just talking about my last experience. But now this could be you on April the 7th. The only thing you have to do is head over to our YouTube channel and leave your comment on your favorite moment, rider, or story from this iconic race, the queen of the classics. But back to this episode. Without further delay, please enjoy my conversation with Tom Stels, who rode the Roubaix 9 times and won 64 races in his career before retiring at the end of the 2008 season, and before pursuing a career as sports director helping other professional cyclists perform at the highest level as DS. Hey everybody, welcome to the Castelli podcast. I'm really excited today to have Tom Stels, one of the World Tour's longest standing and probably the most experienced Directeur Sportif DS, and a guy who has seen it all on the show today. If you weren't born earlier than the late 80s or didn't follow professional road cycling in the news, you might never have heard about Tom. But he's an absolute legend of the sport. He rode on some of the best classic teams of the 90s, including 7 years riding for Mapei MG and Mapei Quickstep. And you know, if we take a look on his palmarès, you will find 9 stage wins at the Tour de France, 2 stages at the Vuelta, 4 times Belgian national road race champion, 2 times winner of Gent-Wevelgem, Omloop Hel Volk, and the list goes on and on. So, Tom, it's an honor to have you on the show. It's an absolutely pleasure to have you on, and thank you for taking the time to join me.
Pleasure is mine. Yeah, no problem.
Tom, I'm sure not all of our listeners are familiar with who you are, so let's start having you share your story on how you got into cycling, your career highlights, your 14 years riding professional, with half of the time riding for Mapei Quickstep, and how you ended up where you are today.
Yeah, that's a long story, yeah. That's a long story. No, I actually started to ride a bike, a BMX, to be honest, because I couldn't ride the horse at home. I always fell off. Because in my family, my brothers, I have 3 brothers, they all came from horseback riding. But I was the youngest of the 4, and I always fell off. And I said I'm gonna quit it, and my father gave me and my mother a BMX, and I started for BMX for 4 or 5 years. And then I went into road cycling, all by coincidence. But at the end, yeah, it turned out quite great. So, I don't know. But I started because I fell a lot off a horse. Yeah, and then the story continued. Then I got better and better. I combined a lot with the track racing. Of course, I had the handling of the bike from the BMX, so I was really not really afraid to race. Even though my first 2 races were a disaster. Couldn't even shift properly. The second race, I crashed.
Yeah.
I came home under the blood with my brothers. Even my brothers always, because of the injuries. I was 15, so my mother already freaked out because she saw me like I already almost had to quit. But then I got better and better. I won my first year 2 or 3 races the year after 25, and then I continued, and then just you roll into cycling, and before you know it, your career is over.
It goes quick, yeah, because you turned pro in 1994.
Yeah,
that's 30 years ago.
Yeah, that was still a completely different way of cycling. I mean, really old school. I mean, you go to the races with. I started actually in a quite good team. Was the first year was called Flanders 2002. So we started with all young riders, all neo-professionals who got the opportunity to get into cycling, to get into professional cycling. But yeah, really old school. I mean, we went to the race with the race car and 2 normal cars. We had to clean our clothing after the race, so you went into the shower and you tried to clean your clothes for the next day. So the humidity in the chamber was always very high. But it was fun. To be honest, it was fun. And step by step, of course, was professional. I stayed there 2 years. Won a stage in the Tour of Flanders. Won Van Steenbergen there, which was a classic in Belgium. And then I was picked up by Patrick Lefevre. And then I went directly to the big Mappé team.
How was the Mappé team different back then? It's always been the number 1 classic team. But back then you also have a lot of the Italian riders. There was a good mix, and also Tony Rominger was on the team, and you had later on Frank van der Broeke, Paolo Bettini, Michele Bartoli, Museo. I mean, you had all the local legends. Yeah. I mean, that team just had that firepower to be strong, throughout the whole season.
Yeah, for me it was really a culture shock. I mean, I came from a small team. I went to a big team with almost, 35 riders. A lot of nationalities, a lot of different riders and many people. I mean, we are already with a lot of people, but even they were at that time still bigger.
Yeah.
And for me, Sportif was a big difference. Also adjust to the trainings. I mean, I suffered, I must say, the first period a lot. But I will never forget my first race. I mean, was with them in Tour Méditerranée.
Yeah.
Suddenly I saw 7, because in those days you still could ride with 8 riders in a stage race. I saw 7 blue guys going to the front. I said, yeah, okay. Still without radios. I think I have to hurry up or I'm too late. I was, the last man hanging on. And they just pulled full and they broke the group in pieces. I think we left with 15-20 riders. With Ballerini, Taffi, Museu, Peters was in, Bomans was in. So it was really, really a strong team.
Yeah.
But also Cipollini was in. So still with his leg warmers on, he probably thought this is going to be an easy one.
Yeah.
But the first time they pulled, I could already beat Cipollini. Cipollini was second, who was in those days one of the fastest.
Yeah.
So then you make your mark, and then you have the confidence of the team behind you. You have your own confidence, but I think maybe that was one of the most important races to win.
Yeah.
Especially because then you get also the Italians behind you, like Ballerini and Taffi, and they didn't know me. They just saw a small Belgian guy coming into the team where they have to work for.
Yeah.
But okay, I won, and then I continued.
Wow, that was the big milestone of your career, where everything started to accelerate after that.
Yeah. Then you get into the classics, into a classics team. You learn a lot.
Yeah.
Then your first Grand Tour. We also always rode to win. Was always the pressure was always on in every race.
Mentality.
Going from small to big races, and it's still the mentality we have now in this team. Also, every race we go, we try to make a plan and to win.
Yeah.
But that we learned. Wilfried Peters was there. Patrick was already there. So yeah, it's just in our DNA. But which I got already early in my career.
Winning a lot of races and the spirit of riding as a team, that makes me think of the Wolfpack.
Yeah.
This is also how the name Wolfpack, how everything started. Of course, it came up later, but that mentality was from the very first days of the team.
Yeah, it's the way we think also. Baramati has the same mentality. I mean, we were cyclists because of that. We knew already early in the career, or I already knew. You need your people around you to protect yourself and to control the race, but you need really a team within cycling, and that we knew, and that's actually what we also do in this team.
Yeah,
I mean, the name Wolfpack is actually invented by Brian Hall.
I was Brian.
Brian who did it. In his mails after the races.
Yeah.
But it's actually it is a good summary of why we do racing and how we think it's the best way to go to a race. Yeah. All for one and one for all. It's a bit.
It's a bit the same.
A bit the same. Yeah.
Yeah. Coming back also to Mappé, that jersey design was so, and still is today, iconic.
Yeah.
Then you still see it in Italy on the road sometimes, people riding around that replica. Over the years, in the 30 years that you've been living the world of professional cycling, is this still today your all-time favorite cycling jersey when it comes to the graphic aspects?
Yeah, it was completely different. It was nice, even if I see it now. Even if a tourist in Belgium still wears that jersey, it gives you a good feeling, and it has something different than any other jersey in cycling. Yeah, I think it never has been copied or never has been a jersey with the same impact. I think. Correct. Besides the national Belgian jersey as a champion with the 3 colors, which was also very nice to ride in. But that jersey of Mappé had something special. Yeah, because for you, with 4 Belgian national road titles, that's also a big achievement to your palmarès. Yeah, that was very, very nice. Winning in a national jersey, whatever country you are, if you look back, the people still remember most of the races, especially in the Tour. Yeah. If you won them in a national jersey, it's something special. It gives something else on a victory. Yeah. Today, cycling has just changed completely. I mean, we see now younger but very young athletes coming into the sports and being superheroes, already being a few steps up the ladder compared to 20 years ago or 10 years ago. Nutrition has changed a lot. Training, bike stuff, aero clothing, the compact gear and the lightness of the bikes and everything. Is this something positive, you think, for the sport? Or should we take a step back and let some of the young guys maybe develop first before we throw them into bigger grand tours? Yeah, I think that's a little bit too much evolution, I think, is what I want to ask you. It's a lot to carry, I think, and especially for young kids. I mean, cycling is not an easy sport. No. Every race is tough. Every race you have to dig deep. And for young kids, it's not only cycling itself, but it's also the social capacities that you have to be 160, 170 days away from home. Yeah. You need to fit into a group. You have to be careful that you don't burn too many young guys on an early age. It's not so easy. Not everybody is called Remco. No. Some people need And it's not a lot. I mean, they need 1 or 2 years more. Also develop their tactical skills.
Correct.
Because at the end, physically in professional cycling, that doesn't make the results. It's the capacity to think tactically. Because you always compete against a guy who is maybe 1 or 2% less or 1 or 2% more. And then the tactical skills make the difference.
Yeah.
But with the professionals, to learn to win is not easy. Yeah, you really have to learn from the young categories. Also not to lose your mental toughness.
Yeah.
That you still feel like you're a winner. And that's the challenges we have. Some of them can come over because they're strong enough. But I think 80% of the riders, maybe 90% of the riders, just that 1 or 2 years more would benefit them more than come directly to the professionals. Also, the parents have to understand, if you have a young kid of 18 years old, if he's 21, he still can be 15 years of a professional cyclist. Then his backpack is filled a lot more than when he comes over at 18 or 19.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also because in a younger age, you probably think you can take the leap earlier, and then you have all these expectations and pressure on your shoulders. And if you just have one bad season, it could be bad luck, a crash or something. Maybe you're out for lifetime after. Maybe you're never going to come back. You know, it's
you have to be on an age where I always say your first 2-3 years as a professional, you have to have the luck or you have to have the body to continue training without many setbacks, because then you grow.
Yeah.
But if you're too young, you race 2 months, an injury, you race another 2 months, you get sick. But you cannot continue to develop yourself if you're not strong enough. And then the mental aspect comes, and then depressions, then why do I cycle? Why do I do this? Or the other side, the bike is not good enough, the clothing is not good enough. And then they start to search for the details.
Yeah.
But the bike is always good enough. Clothing as well, to make results. Of course, nowadays in cycling, also clothing, also bikes make a big impact on the highest level. But to get to the highest level, there are different ways to get there.
Now, these are some very wise words.
It's a tough world. I mean, if I had a kid who cycled, who tried to be a cyclist, but he didn't like to train. So I never ever pushed him. Even as a young kid, you have to have the feeling to go training, to get on that bike. But the feeling has to come from yourself.
Yeah.
Is it from the outside? You will never survive a long time. You have to have that fun, and you can give some guidance, but it has to come from the person on the bike itself.
It has to come naturally.
Yeah.
No, that is so true. Now we covered a lot already, but we also covered your 15 years of riding professional. Now the other 15 years as a Directeur Sportif or sports director, because did you make the shift already when you retired the end of 2008 and then you started 2009 as a DS, or what year did you start?
I started with coaching after my career, but I also worked for television as a co-commentator on the Belgium television, and also there I learned a lot. For me, it was quite good to be 1 or 2 years out of cycling, just to have a different view on cycling. Still helps me a lot when I hear people giving comments on races, because I know how it is to be there in that small box with not so much info. You only tell what you see, but maybe what you see, there is a completely different story behind. But okay, they can only tell what they see. But it was nice. It was nice to be there, to just see different things about 2 years. But then luckily I also got the opportunity to start back as a DS and a coach into Patrick's team.
That was 2011 then?
Yeah, I think so. It was nice. I mean, it's to be a sport director, it's completely different job. You're not a bike rider anymore.
Yeah.
You know how it is to be on the bike, but you're not a bike rider anymore. And you just have to, it's a complex job, and I don't know where really to start, but it's a lot,
I can imagine, and especially the first season, because one thing is also when you race those races as a cyclist versus your first time behind the steering wheel in a team car, and you have to drive through the peloton. You got the radio, you got, so much is happening. And, on a bike, the gaps we can get through. I mean, for me, looking from the outside, it must have been nerve-wracking and stressful, especially the first year. What was your experience?
Yeah, the first race was always, I did Mallorca as the first race, which was not easy. You have the trees left and right from the road, and mechanics yell, go to the left. Then you often hear, and then you of course hit the tree with the bikes.
Yeah,
you have the walls, you have the riders around the cars, you have the descents, you have a lot to take care of. Because driving the car into a bike race, it's probably one of the toughest job during the race. You really have to be focused. I mean, the bike riders have no protection. They're right behind your car at 60 kilometers an hour. You have to have 15 eyes to see everything. The guys in the car, the mechanic and the co-driver is also very important. But it's also fun to do. I mean, and luckily, 95% of the drivers of the cars were former riders. So to be honest, it's a bit the bike race also behind with the cars. We have to have discipline also. Riders have always and will always have the upper hand when we are in the cars. We don't make the race. We don't have to make the race. And if we help the riders, they have a flat tire, we try to get there as fast as possible, but always with a little bit of safety to not hit somebody.
Take any risks,
but that's one part of the job, of course. I mean, the other part is when I started, to be honest, there was still the race book. I still see me standing in front of the bus with the race book, just showing a little bit where the wind came from, but that was it. The next step, I start to search for other tools to just get more information. So I start to watch Google Maps, just is there a small road or not, and make the notes. When I did my first or second Roubaix, I did the recons and I really had like a rally car book. 2 kilometers further, we go left, narrow, just to talk to the riders. And then other tools came. The first thing I said, the meetings, maybe we can do it with a PowerPoint. Maybe it's better with the screen just to show the riders. So I was in a hotel with the screen. Then the next step, we put it in the bus to make the meetings before the race with the PowerPoint. And then other tools came, like VeloView and a ride with GPS, and then where we could really follow the race. And now, to be honest, we know every corner, every little road, every open sector.
Every little pothole on the road, and if it's slippery or the wind direction is changing. Because you also have someone sometimes up front, further up the road, who can give you direction or tell if something is changing.
Especially on Grand Tours, because you see it in front, but you often don't know where the barriers are going to be or small changes, especially for the last 5 kilometers. If it's a bunch sprint, every information can be crucial. So the guy in front gives us that well in front, that we still can give it to the riders. But the preparation of a race, you easily talk about 3 hours, 4 hours for one stage. So you can count if you have to do a Grand Tour 21 races, how much time goes in from filling in the course, understanding the course, to put it in a PowerPoint for the meeting, which is actually the tactics of the race. If the race goes normal, because a lot of things can change, but there is a lot of time that goes into that preparation. But you need it also to be calm in the car, because at least you know the course where you get into.
Do you think sometimes the riders, they count too much on you, guys back in the car, and don't act on instinct?
Yeah, but that's something we teach them. I mean, we at the car, we are the last solution. They are the first solution.
That's good.
They have to feel the race, because if it has to come from the car, it will take them 10 kilometers more to 10 kilometer more effort. So for me, the most important is the meeting in front of the race, just to know who the leaders are. Who is going to pull the first, which teams cannot go, which teams we're going to watch in the final, how are we going to do it ourselves? That's for me the most important thing. When they leave the bus, if they have a clear tactic, to be honest, I would be very happy only to say the dangerous point and tactically that they just go their own way.
Yeah.
And that's something I really like to teach them also. Even if they make a mistake in the race, it doesn't matter, because if you only do it once, if they do it 5 times, it's another story.
You learn from your mistakes.
But you learn from your mistakes.
Yeah, correct.
And riders are no robots. And even without radios, I still want to have the best team. And you can only do that by giving riders responsibility and also give them the responsibility. Because then I always think, if I was a bike rider and somebody tells me always in his ear what I have to do, 5 kilometers later, it probably will be out. You have to have that instinct in the races. Yeah.
Plus, it's the only place where you can feel the tension there is if there's something that is building up, inside of the group.
Yeah.
Or in the breakaway, if somebody's about to go on and go in the breakaway or attack or something, that is something you can only feel if you're there in the group, and not from a few kilometers behind in a team car.
Yeah, I mean, if you have the luxury to be second or third car, you still see what happens. But if you car number 8 or 9, to be honest, then you're too far away to feel it. Later on, when you get the data after the race, you see the race data, then you know, fuck, this was hard, or this was hard, or the other rider suffered or not. But during the race, to be honest, I'm always happy if you go on the road with a smart team, then you're much more relaxed, and you don't have to put situations right that were not necessary.
Correct. How many team cars are allowed on the course doing, let's say, one of them coupled monuments?
I usually can follow with 2 cars. But if you take like a race like Tour of Flanders or Roubaix, that's too hectic. So even with 1 car, it's already not easy to come to the front group. So usually, like in Belgium, it's forbidden to start in the front. So you have to follow directly from the second car.
Okay.
But then at a certain point we say, okay, the second car goes out, takes the sticker off, that he cannot come back into the race. And then we just follow with one car. Yeah.
How many people would you then, now you mentioned Roubaix, have on the course with spare wheels?
A lot.
Can you know the number? Or?
Yeah, really a lot. I think, every sector is covered.
Yeah.
And now also for security, you calculate a lot of time to go from one sector to another one.
Yeah.
I think that the times of cowboy style is over. That's not acceptable anymore.
Yeah.
Which was 10 or 15 years ago was a different story. Yeah, I think we have 5 or 6 teams, 5 or 6 cars going in between with like 20-25 people.
With spare wheels and
with
bottles. Drinks, bottles, They will be 6-second through all the sectors, making sure that...
Yeah. They also have that plan. They also know where to stand. They also text us in the car where they are. They also put it on
the Willeviewer map,
the Willeviewer map. Then you know where they are exactly. Then you can say that you don't have to say they are in 1 kilometer, but then you really can say kilometer 105.6. They're gonna be there.
Yeah. Now you always think about it when you're watching it on television, and you never really understand all that stress that is going on and how hectic it is, inside of the car, but also all the people standing alongside the course. One thing is you have one puncture and one rider who goes down, but another thing is if you have 3 riders that goes down at the same spot, and they all need a spare wheel or a spare bike.
Yeah, and often you also make tough decisions. Often you cannot wait.
No.
And then you leave a rider behind with a flat tire. Because you especially in Roubaix, it's very tough, but also in Tour of Flanders. And then you just always move on to the people who are really still in the race. Yeah. If you will always give a rider a wheel, but often you just give the wheel and you go on. And then the riders understand, and we also brief them in front what can happen. Yeah, they understand it also. But it's very hectic. Once I step into the car with my colleagues, I always say, okay, this is our office today. It's an office also. You have different iPads. But they always say, if they ask me, isn't it boring to be 7 hours in the car? It's not boring. It's like 5 minutes. The race starts and you go on. And once you get concentrated, and you have to keep, your brain is just, and after the race, we're also dead.
And that's probably also a bit of debrief you have to do after the race with the riders, or...
Yeah, if something happens, you
maybe
do it
the next day.
Yeah, you do a debriefing if it's really necessary. If you yourself have already enough information, so you listen to the riders. And if you really feel there is something boiling, then you're gonna look for the moment or try to get your story clear, that you get to the riders with a clear story. I always say 10 minutes after the race, they can yell whatever they want. That's not important. But this is at half an hour after the race. If that story still stands or not. And then you know, okay, we have to do something with it.
Yeah.
Or to learn for the next race. Or if it's a problem, to solve the problem. Or just to have a laugh. But I'm not the debriefing guy every day. They already have to do a lot. They don't already have a lot of time. But you listen and you learn. And then if it's, I think in my whole career, I did it maybe 4 or 5 times when I really felt, okay, this is not okay, guys. This is not who we are. And then you see the next day, everything back from
changed.
Online.
Yeah, different mentality. And I think those are the right approach. Tom, what is the most difficult decision you had to make in your career as a DS?
Yeah, one of the toughest, was like leaving Michael Morco behind in the Tour. He wasn't good, but we still went for the station and we needed cars and we had to leave him behind alone. That was a tough one. Luckily, we had a good Soigneur who was behind the broom wagon. Yeah. And the broom wagon, luckily, also was very gentle, at least to give him a bottle. And you have to respect also the rider if he doesn't want to stop. It's also, we knew it was almost impossible to come into the time limit. So that was a tough one. Yeah, also sometimes it's tough really to make a call where you, especially when it's tight, to chase breakaway, where still a rider is in, but you think you have more chance from behind to win. That's also a very tough call that you don't also take lightly. And of course, crashes. A crash always goes straight to the heart. You always are, once you hear or see a rider on the ground, that's never ever gonna be a nice thing to see. And I always calm myself down to be sure if you get him back onto the bike, he's also good to go on the bike. Luckily, and that's a good thing, I think in 95% of the races we also have a doctor in the race. And once there is a crash, usually is in the second car in the Grand Tours, we always call him directly up. That beside the race doctor, at least we have our own doctor also.
Yeah. Who also knows personally the rider.
Yeah, losses. It was a nice thing to hear from Ilio Kers, who was a sport director first year with us last year. The nice thing was we did together the race in the last stage in Dunkirk. We wanted to go for the win. And the one thing he said, and we'll never forget, because that's exactly how it is. As a bike rider, you into the tension, the adrenaline on the bike, but once the race is over, it's over. You take a shower, but as a sport director, the adrenaline just keeps on coming. And if you win, it's okay. You also lose it quite quickly. But the frustration, if you lose, it just sticks to the body. And that's something you have to learn also. That's why running after a race or just doing something different, half an hour to get loose of the race, then go to the riders is usually a good thing to do. But the adrenaline just keeps on coming.
Yeah. No, I can imagine. Also with all the goals and goal setting, but it's also a way of doing a bit of meditation after, just letting go of the issue or the problem or the result, and like you said, go for a 30-minute run just to clear it out, rethink about it, because maybe get a different perspective and relax and come back.
You see it differently.
Yeah.
And you also cannot forget, I've done competition sport when I was 8. It's also in my system.
It is.
Once I come into competition, I just have a different mindset. It's a completely different, almost a different person, you see. Yeah.
There are some people that sometimes I question, meeting them casually in person. I thought, how could this person be such a good cyclist? Because as being a good cyclist, you need to have this hunger for winning and give a little bit extra. I'm not saying and have a big ego, because again, I'm happy if my teammates win, but I wish it was me. It's kind of still that mentality you have as a cyclist. No, I can see that. Then as soon as those people, when they pin on a race number, boom, the mindset just completely changes.
Yeah, and it's like an extra power you get on board. You have riders who are good riders on training, but never will be exceptional. But those are the guys usually in the race. Once the number is on, they get to their best. And you see even the numbers changing. And you have the guys who, I think out of 10 riders, maybe one is a real winner. The second one or the third one is close by, but there are not so many winners in a team. They really have that in, like even calm guys can really be winners. Because they feel the race and they want to win.
Yeah.
Because to win, you have to dig deep. You always have to dig deep, and you have to have that nasty mentality for yourself.
Yeah.
That you say, today I will not lose. And if you lose, then you throw the helmet away, and not less than before. But even I threw my bike in the air after a frustration loss. Over the years, you learn how to handle it more. But the fire inside still stays the same. Outside you stay more calm, but inside it's still boiling. That's why the bus, if you close the bus, they can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
And it's also necessary to do it. But a winner is a winner. It's difficult to say.
It is a team sport, but at the same time an individual sport.
Yeah.
And there's so many expectations also building up to it. But then you also have the glory. And now as a DS, I assume that you are probably more on the road today than you were when you were racing. You know, between training camps, recons, out there at races. How does it feel when someone succeeds in victory? Like something that you guys have built up for, some big race, or when Casper Asgreen won Tour of Flanders in 21, that joy that is within the team after when you guys are popping champagne and celebrating, that must also feel like something special to you as a DS, just as it was back in the day when you were racing for Mapei.
The feeling is almost the same. I mean, you, nowadays with the onboard cameras, you see the joy we have if a rider wins, and it's not a theater. We really are really excited. I mean, if Casper won Tour of Flanders, even last year in the Tour when he won that incredible stage in the Tour. Which was so close, and we had a difficult tour. Well, then we explode. Then we're happy, even with tears, even with and that last, and then you're like you're almost like a bike rider again. Which is with many people who do a job. This is also in our job one of the most nicest things to do. When it goes wrong, it goes wrong. Then we also feel down, but when it goes good, it's like it's like a big party. But it's not only us in the car, it's also the emotions in the bus. It's the guys who are at the hotel. Everybody just goes. You flow 1 centimeter above ground if you win. And the tougher it is to win, the deeper it gets, the nicer it's if you win a lot, even every win is difficult. Especially as an ex-bike rider, it's never ever easy to win. But you get a certain mood of, we will win again. But if it gets tough and you win, and then you have a win, then it's...
No, it takes you out of that dark space because then, and it completely changes the vibe and the energy there is around the team. So, that's right. What about inside of the team car, when the mechanics doing one of the classic races, say Omloop or Kuurne or Gent, and so when the riders come up to the car asking for something in the race rain bag, is it easy or is it very difficult for the mechanic to find what they're looking for? How does that work? I mean, we supply the equipment and the race rain bags and tell the riders where to stuff their stuff, but how does it actually unfold inside of the team car?
So you have to imagine, you have the team car, the mechanic behind. And I must say, nowadays to be a mechanic is not easy.
It's not easy.
It's a very technical bike. It's a bike that is strong, but on the other side also vulnerable. So to be a mechanic in the car, they are not there on vacation. It's not easy. So we have the 7 rain bags behind, and their rain bag is like a little bit like their personality. If you have an organized people, but because you have rain bags, everything is on.
Yeah.
Arm warmers, gloves, everything has this compartment. Every piece has his place in this. But some it's perfect. They ask a rain jacket, and nowadays with the stuff we have from Castelli, they have different choices for different weather types. And if it's organized, it takes a mechanic 10 seconds to take it, and he gives it to the rider. But if you have a rider with a little bit of less organized skills, then it's all over the rain bag, and then it takes 2 minutes to find what he needs. Or it's not in the rain bag, that he asked it and he forgot it in the hotel. Or it's in a place that you never find it. And then it takes longer and longer. And usually if they need rain clothing, it's usually because it starts to rain. But then you don't have one rider who comes, but then you have 7 riders who come to the car. And then it just, a bomb explodes in the car. So then the mechanic, then it can be very hectic in the car. And if it's like a really warm day, then they come for bottles. Yeah. And then it's like, and if you have car number 1 or 2, it's quite okay. But then the battle starts with the other cars. Yeah. The battle starts, and the box with the bottles is in the back. So he has to turn around. And if it's like a hectic course, like in Italy, with 15,000 cordons in 1 kilometer, then they really have to have a strong stomach. But it's hectic. It's for sure hectic. It's I think we did one. It was quite a nice story. We did Liège-Bastogne-Liège with the snow, and then we had a good weatherman, and he could really predict. Listen, within 2 kilometers, it's gonna be over for half an hour. It was really like snow and everything.
Wow.
So then we at least could say to the riders, hold on to the jacket. After the hill, it's gonna be dry. Then of course they took everything out, and I was together with Brahma, Davide Bramati, and he wanted to dry all the clothing. So the desk in front of the car was full of clothing. So outside was like, I don't know, 4 degrees. Yeah. But I had to put my window down, but the heating was full on. So it was like warm in the car, but I had to cool from the outside.
While driving at that speed still.
Yeah. While being busy with the race.
Yeah. But still. Yeah.
But that's
sometimes
also,
you have to come up with solutions.
Yeah. It's like a little bit of being of MacGyver, eh?
Yeah.
Sometimes we have to fix the cleats. Sometimes we have to fix the chain. It's always something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard also a couple of funny stories, but one of them was also one of your guys who crashed and broke the buckle, the closure buckle on the specialized shoes. So he needed a new pair of spare shoes, which he was supposed to have in his race rain bag. But what the mechanic found was a pair of casual shoes or runners. But that was a fun one. Yeah. Okay, so then when you're at the race, I always thought about how you guys, especially doing one of those like long days in the car, as you mentioned earlier, 7 hours, how do you guys go about your lunch break? Let's say when you're going to eat your sandwich or taking a nature break, when you gotta go, you gotta go. Tell me a little bit more, Tom, about how all that works.
Yeah, of course the lunches are prepared by the soigneurs, and that's also improving. Nowadays we often get a salad, or usually it's like how do you say the name? A baguette, a sandwich.
Yeah, which is probably a little easier to eat than a salad.
Easier to eat, yeah.
Especially if you're driving.
Yeah. If you're driving, it's impossible to eat the salad, but and you eat when you have time, and you drink when you have time, and the natural stops. Then we usually call our colleague, and then of course if you're far behind in the column, you move up just to lose too many spots, because in a grand tour like the Tour, it's all well, but like in a small tour, you have to be careful that you don't get out of after the broom wagon, after the police escort, because then you're out of the race and you come into normal traffic. So you move on, and 9 out of 10 you move to the front. A village comes, no space to stop, and then you have to wait. Then our other colleagues come back again, and then you find the spot, and then you stop, and then you try to get back as fast as possible. But you really have to be careful.
How far behind is the broom wagon?
That's not so far. I mean, if you're there for 1 minute, 1 minute and a half, it can already be tricky.
Yeah.
Often you see, especially when you drive last car, even riders who stop to pee, if this last car doesn't stop, they're also often out of the cars, and then you never can come back. So there has to be some solidarity also, especially for riders who are really... And also often riders just, they stop to pee, and the peloton doesn't go fast, but they still go 40, 45.
Right.
They have the feeling it goes quite okay, but before they know it, there is nobody to bring them back. So it's not the first time a rider really has to chase down the group because he stopped for too long.
And even for a rider, but also for you guys, also finding, especially doing a grand tour, finding a good spot where you can actually go and do your natural break, where there's no people, no fans, where you're not in the way. It's not easy. I mean, this whole...
It's not easy.
No.
When it gets hectic, I must say, I lower the consumption of drinks.
Of drinks, yeah.
I'll bring it down, so we don't have to stop often.
So I heard, I don't know if it's true, but I've heard that doing a grand tour where the start usually is around 12:30, 1 o'clock, and not like the classics where you would start early in the morning, that there is this unwritten DS or mechanic rule that you never have lunch before 1 o'clock. Is that right? Or you don't in the car? Is that, or is there only some teams?
That's in only some teams, I think. For me, the limit is 12 o'clock.
Okay.
So usually if it's a late start and we are there at the start and the meeting is done, then usually, we eat what's in the car already before the race. Then at least you can eat quite that easy. Yeah. But I think with us, it's not really a rule.
No, okay. No, that's good to hear.
Yeah.
What piece of advice would you give to someone new coming into the DS role and getting behind the wheel for the first time as a sports director?
First of all, of course, know the course, know your qualities, but also your pitfalls. And also as a sport director, we have to be modest. It's still the bike rider who wins the race. We help them, and we try to get the best out of the riders. But at the end, we just do our job, and we are a small piece, can be a small piece of victory or not. But we try to bring the rider in the best possible circumstances to the race. But from start to finish, we have our role, but the rider does it.
Correct. Yeah.
The rider does it, and we can help. And sometimes we have that small part where we help them with information, but they have the legs, and they just have to spin the legs. And I don't want to downsize our job, but I also don't want to make it like we are. Like you often read, like the DSs, they make the tactics, and we make a plan together with
robots and no, that's ridiculous.
We make a plan with the guys. It's always together with because I can make a plan, but if the riders say no, we want to do it differently, can also be a good choice. But then you discuss about it. At least that you have a clear plan. But as a DS, you have to be a people manager, and you have to understand that the soigneur, the mechanic, the guys on the office, they're at least as important as we are. It also that has to be a team, and the structure of a team also has a big impact on results. And we carry maybe a lot more. We carry responsibility, because if it's not wrong, we have to say it also. But we have to count on our colleagues also, on every level of the team.
Of the team, yeah. No, it's one big chain. If there's just one missing link, then it's not gonna work. Yeah. So.
And enjoy it. Enjoy the job. Because
enjoy
it's a
the
nice
job. Yeah, you're right. What is the worst fine you ever received doing a race, or the most stupidest?
Yeah, the worst one. That really, of course, we do things. We also know if you get a fine, sometimes it's a 100% fine, correct fine. The other one is you can discuss about it. But one of the toughest fines we ever got was with Julian in the Tour, where he took a bottle just after the 20-kilometer rule, which is, of course, you cannot discuss about it. It was like 19.8 or 19.5, but he was just after with a good reason. It was the last climb of the day. There were a lot of people already on the course, a lot of spectators. Just he moved to try to find a safe spot. It was a very hot day. We had to pass a village at high speed. So there we couldn't give a bottle. The group was very compact. So there were good reasons why he was just after the 20-kilometer rule. So we got a fine. Julian lost his jersey, COVID time. So the world lost a lot of people. There I missed a lot of humanity in the decision. And then I lost it. Then I just couldn't hold it anymore. And it's still when I had a discussion with the commissar, which actually is a good person, but yeah, that decision I really could not live with. And the riders were on the bus and my colleagues were on the bus and they heard it. But that's still, for me, one of, on the human side, one of the worst decision I ever had to cope with.
Yeah.
But okay, still alive and still go on to the other race, but also for Julian. But in general, I mean, yeah, we lost so many people, lost so many friends, so many parents.
Yeah.
And then just the contrast was too big for 500 meters and half a liter of a bottle.
I completely agree with you. But those guys also just following the rules, but
a
little bit of flexibility.
I don't blame it, but it just...
And the rules keep getting more and more strict from the UCI, also with some of the new rule sets now. What do you think? Yeah,
often it's forgotten that the rules are getting very tight, the fines are getting very high. But yeah, as a DS, we have no union. I mean, we are always in the race. We protect our riders, but also we help also other riders from other teams. But now you get a fine for everything. We know our limits. I mean, 95% of the time, but is that 5%? Of course, you have to be careful that it doesn't go, that is exaggerated.
Right.
But it's like giving bottles to a rider. If a rider comes back after 2 weeks of racing, 35 degrees, you give him a small push because he has to carry 7 bottles. Those kind of things, you just have to find the human aspect also. If a rider gets dropped in the final, and that's actually the mentality we got from Patrick when we had him as a DS. If you drop in the final, you drop in the final. No help from the car, nothing at all. That's because you're not good enough or the course is too hard.
Yeah.
Then you play it good. But if a rider has a mechanical problem, 150 kilometers to go, nothing happens in the race, please be a little bit flexible also.
Yeah.
That does help to at least give the public the spectacle they deserve in the final. Yeah.
Because on television, sometimes you see maybe a rider from another team being held up, as you said, to the rest of the caravan and to the group by other team cars. Sometimes you see television, they go on and focus on the rider just for 1 or 2 seconds, and then they cut to something different.
Yeah.
But there will still be UCI commissars on the parcours, but it's something that you do to help riders, because you also help riders from other teams, but also to bring something to the race. You don't want to lose some of the big main favorites of the race just due to a rule or...
No. I mean, there has to be kind of a solidarity in the team cars, because also, I mean, if you have a flat tire, if you stopped for a natural break, those are not sportive elements. Then we usually, and also, I mean, then every sport director will help every rider out. Non-important which team he is, of a World Tour team or a Pro Continental, every rider will be helped. Even if a rider asks a bottle, if you are behind the brake and the team car is not there, or you only have one car, then you also give him a bottle to help him out when it's hot and he's suffering. Another story is, if a rider gets dropped, then they have to be really strict. If a rider gets dropped, then you often see the boundaries that they still help or behind the car or whatever. That's not correct. If a rider drops and he's like close to the time limit, out is out. I mean, of course, if it's snowing and hail and then they usually also flexible. But hanging on the car on the climb for 2 kilometers, that's
no go. Yeah.
Those things, there is a big difference between, even in bunch sprint, there is a big difference between what you can and cannot do. But therefore are the rules. But it's a thin line. It's a gray zone, and you have to have that. Yeah, some commissaires really have an excellent feeling. They feel the race. They make good decisions. You can talk to them also. You can discuss with them. You can tell your story. We also hear their story because it's also a different world for us. But some comments says, power sometimes is not. It doesn't bring the best out of people sometimes. Yeah.
And then of course, if something should change in the overall, then you also have the counterpart from other teams going to the commissaires talking there. I mean, then it's becoming one big discussion. But it's funny you should say this also about in the bunch sprint, so keeping your line. I just had the pictures of early 90s Abdul Jabarov when he was doing his sprinting, and he would be a little bit like pushing and everything. But even Erik Sabel, you remember, you've been sprinting against him, I'm sure, and been racing against him. Did the same, but maybe with the head or shoulders and the arms out. A lot of things have changed. Have changed with the rules.
Yeah.
The mentality on those guys, and that's the way they race. Also the way that sometimes you just lean up against another rider just because that. I mean, it's not to hurt the other person. Maybe just using your balance, you're leaning up and just to get yourself back aligned again.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's a thin line. I mean, one of the things I always did, like you say, if I knew a rider was coming, because he was maybe also pushed away, I already brought my shoulder to him. Because the sooner you touch shoulders, even if he pushes you a little bit away, you still stay on your straight line. Yeah, it's difficult to say. I mean, as a sprinter in that environment, you see everything. You see a shadow, you listen. You follow every move. You're so sharp. Even now, I cannot imagine that I ever did it. But if you think about it back, your body is so sensitive about a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But one thing is always clear: if a rider really moves from his line, I can say directly that's on purpose or not.
Yeah.
Because you're so aware what you're doing that it's silly to say I didn't know that he was coming.
Right.
Or I didn't know it. Oh yeah, sorry, but no, that's bullshit. You're so aware of everything around you that you can say directly, this is on purpose or this is not on purpose. And even if it's on purpose, sometimes you feel like I'm gonna win, and somebody comes and you have that instinct to go to the right. But then as a DDS, you have to say, listen, if you win or lose, if you win, you have to be clear, but you never win by doing stuff where you hurt a colleague or you do it in a way that you say this is not correct. Because on the long term, you will lose more than you win. But that's the job of a DS.
It's interesting to hear, and also interesting. I like to hear from your point of view, coming with your many years of experience, because you bring a lot of very important points to the table here. But about helping cyclists in general, but also about being the perfect all-round DS. Because that's what you need.
Well, you need your colleagues also. I mean, I have my things. Other colleagues see it differently, and you try always to find your. But the rider itself, seeing a long-term career for a rider, protect him when necessary. For instance, when he doesn't, of course, that's together with the doctor. But also say, okay, go out. Even a race is never so important as your health.
Correct.
If you have to go out, you have to go out. I mean. You rest 2 weeks and you restart again in another race. A race is a race. And we have the luxury in our sport, there are many races. If you go to the Olympics as a marathon runner, maybe you have 4 chances a year.
Yeah.
We have 80 chances a year. So it's and the health of the rider that we also always have to protect. And just to get the best out of the rider. And I learned from the package as done, and we tried to get it better. But we're also not musicians. I mean, some riders get a lot of their careers. Other riders are very good teammates. You know they can do better. But if you always push to get them better because you know they are better, at a certain point it also stops. Yeah. And then the other rider who they are. And it's also okay. I mean, if they are fine with the results they do, and they are fine with the salary and their contract, then it's also not up to us to keep on pushing. You can do it, you have to do it for young riders, and you have to do it on a certain stage. But if they're 5, 6, 7 years professional, then they are the rider who they are.
There's not much there you can change.
No.
Like that. No. Coming down to my last 3 questions here. When you grew up in Belgium with cycling, who was your childhood cycling idol or cycling hero?
I must say, because I come from a totally different environment, cycling was not the main sport in our family. Yeah. So I was the first to start with cycling. But I had the luxury, and it's a classic. I mean, as a Belgian. But I had the luxury to start in the team with, let us say now we would say a Devo team, with the team of Eddy Merckx. And I had the pleasure in a young age, 2 persons, I must say. So you have Eddy Merckx, who was quite impressive, who was with us involved, who changed our positions, who made our bikes. So he came to the race and he started to take a key on.
So he was part of this.
He was part of the race. I was lucky to ride with his son, top guy.
Axel.
And I also had the luxury to work with Patrick Sercu, who was 6-day king. He was my first coach, to be honest, on the track, but also on the road. I learned a lot from him. And I also learned the winning mentality of him. So I had really the luxury of working with 2, one of the nice persons, but to be honest, also winners. And they shaped my. Of course, with Eddy, it was really nice to meet him and to see what character can do and how much passion he built the bikes and who was involved with us, but who are we against him? I mean, and then with Patrick Sercu, we are really had a lot of nice times together, and they developed also my career. But as a young kid, an idol, to be honest, I didn't have.
You didn't have any, Maybe it's also good. I mean, it gives a different perspective. Also showing that it's cycling is not everything. Maybe.
No, and you start with the white page. I really didn't know anything.
You didn't follow cycling at all before, so
I didn't. I rode a bike that my father bought on a second-hand market. Was not even a race bike. I mean, but it's good for me. It was good. But I still remember and you don't remember everything, but I still remember my first race. I had to put on my race pants, and I was looking at what are they doing. I mean, how do they put cream on or not? I just didn't know anything. Yeah.
You were learning it by doing.
Yeah.
Probably the best school you can have. But just like you said before, with Eddy, apart from being one of the best, but maybe the best cyclist of cycling history, I spent some time also in Belgium, and at one of the Kermis races I was out doing in Leuven, Eddy was sitting there. I didn't know that, but I was in the breakaway to the last 20 kilometers, got dropped and just dropped out of the race completely after. Went back to the bar where you need to give back your race number. And this guy behind me, he says, hey, why don't you first talk to me? And I don't know if it was French or Flemish, I can't remember. But afterwards you found out I was stranger, foreigner. And he told me, hey, hand back your number and come to my table here and join me for a beer. And I turned around and I looked at Eddy Merckx. I was like, no way, are you talking to me or to someone else? And that's it. I mean, came to his, I don't know what you call it, Stammtisch or what you call it. He was just there watching the local Kermis race, but I remember being such a gentleman that I came back to. We were staying up in Waschmünster in an old hostel.
Yeah.
It's at your place, yeah. Really?
I live 10 kilometers from there. It's St. Nicholas,
yeah.
It's my own place,
Nice.
Yeah.
And I remember telling everyone else there from the team and other riders that I just had to be with Eddy Merckx, and they're like, yeah, well, don't believe you. Like, such a gentleman.
What I really was most impressed about his character. We were with the Olympic team in Lanzarote, and he was our coach. So we were there, and the coach of the national team was also there, Ronnie van Marken, which also was a former rider, and they rode together. And the first day, apparently, Eddy didn't have the best legs, but then I thought he was also already stopped many years. And the second day he came back, but red, sweating. And then he said, if he thinks he's going to hurt me every day, he's wrong. So even if he was out of condition, his character took over just to show he was still the best.
Nice.
And we have a doctor in the team, Joris,
champion.
who really rides a lot with him.
Yeah.
He has such a character. He can hurt himself so much, which is a quality, to be honest, which you see with the best. They can hurt, they can suffer so many pain. But that's really the first time I saw that even if you're stopped, even if you won everything, it's in your genes.
It's in your genes. Yeah. As you said earlier, no, you're right. If you're a real racehorse, you're a real racehorse for life.
Yeah.
So, 2 last questions. What is your first Castelli memory? If there are any. It could also be a Castelli team from the days that you were racing or a garment you got later on.
I rode with, of course, the Belgian, 2 Belgian teams. I rode with Mappe, but that was, I think, Sportif.
That was Sportif for a few years and Santini later.
Santini later, but
I think when you won the Nationals, it was with Sportif, because I think we have your jersey, actually your signed jersey in the office.
Yeah. That was with Sportif. Yeah, then that was here with the team, I think. But also that evolution is incredible.
Yeah, it's changed and it keeps changing now. Now we're going back to the tunnel with Remco to do some more aero testing for the Tour.
Yeah, but that also is such a high technology.
It is, yeah.
I mean, if I take my bike and I put on a GABA, and nowadays it was like 15 layers just to stay warm.
Right.
Now you just put one jacket on, one underlay, and you go.
And
it's 10 degrees, you're safe. It's impressive.
And sometimes I remember in the 90s when it was just pouring down, raining, then you put on a rain cape, no matter also if you knew that you couldn't really breathe inside it. But other races where it was maybe just drizzling a little bit, sometimes you would just not even put on the rain cape because you knew that the moisture would not be able to get out, so you're still going to get wet and you will no longer be aerodynamic, you know. You just feel this like big parachute like pulling you back more than...
I still remember the first rider who had the character to put on a TT suit in the race. Was a guy from, I think it was a guy from Euskartel.
Yeah.
Orange jersey. And we looked at him and we said, what's he going to do? And everybody started to laugh with him because he didn't even have the pockets. I mean, he was just... But then you see, okay, there always has to be some guy who starts with it. And at the end nowadays, aerodynamics is so important. Because it's a big surf.
I can't remember, but I'll have to look it up. But I read in a cycling book a long time ago about, I think it was Grellemont, who in the 80s showed up to a road race wearing a TT suit. I think it was him or Andy Hampton. It was one of the American, but I think it was Greg. But no, you're right. And then it just disappeared. And then it came up then with Muscatel and
And it's nowadays, I must say, many riders say aero is everything.
I mean, even look at the narrow handlebars, that they're maybe a little bit too narrow sometimes, and with the braking levers pointed in, and So.
I mean, nowadays, if you get onto a bike and clothing, you just ride with the same effort, or you have the feeling at least you go 3, 4, 5 kilometers fast.
Yeah,
which is incredible. Yeah. If you know how much power it takes to go 5 kilometers faster.
Yeah, completely. But also incredible. That mental thing.
Yeah.
The placebo effect that comes in, because when we, with our sister brand Sportif, their first year sponsoring Saxo Bank, we were down, Steve and I and Sonia, down in Forteventura, and then also talking to Bjarne Riis, because I had Fabian Cancellara asking for longer legs, so longer shorts, and if he could get his aero shoe covers with the top riding Spartacus in gold. I remember Bjarne was like, you're not going to get longer legs and we're not going to ride Spartacus in gold. And then, he kept on asking, asking. And then one day, Bjarne, he called me and said, hey, just, for the Tour, that was the Tour where he won, he probably won it anyway, the prologue, and took the yellow jersey. But he told us, hey, on those Fabian shoe covers, just ride Spartacus, but just in small, in gold. And you will see he's going to go, like you said, those 5, 10, 20 watts faster, know.
It's... You never see a rider anymore putting the clothing on just by putting in them on.
No.
I mean, if they put the aero socks on, they really use the spray. They see if the sleeves are okay. Before a TT, it's really, it's also part of the game.
Yeah, it is. What is the biggest, now we're talking about clothing, fashion crime you have seen in cycling? Like the worst look, or the worst thing could also be like, now we have high socks, because back in the day when you were racing, that was just a standard height. But then they just became longer.
Yeah. I must say, it doesn't look that great, I must say. But it's good, it's fast. Yeah. But it's just with us, we are grown up with white socks, low white socks.
Correct.
It's different.
Yeah.
Even if you see the riders coming out of the bus with short pants and their long socks on for recovery, it's a strange sight.
Yeah.
But okay, it is what it is. Yeah.
It's part of cycling today.
It's part of cycling. Yeah.
But I do agree with you. I'm more on the old team when it comes to how to dress.
Yeah.
I mean, it has to be white socks. They can be a little bit higher. It still looks nice. White socks, white shoes. Just the black shorts. Just keep it or at least dark colors. Keep it classy. And stick to tradition. So hopefully we're not going to see any more of the only world champions anymore white bib shorts.
True.
In the tour. I mean, they're just terrible. That when it rains.
Some of them like it, but you also have to respect it. But okay,
I think it's okay for a world champion.
Yeah, for a world champion it is.
So
that's the only one who can wear it.
Exactly. Yeah. Tom, thank you so much for taking the time to.
My pleasure.
We have been on for a long time, almost an hour and 15 minutes. But thank you so much. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and I'm sure that all our listeners here, they picked up a lot of interesting stuff here. I can't wait till we share this episode with the rest of the world. It was really good.
Thank you.
No, thank you so much.
Okay.
Let's go down and get some food now. It's already getting late.
Yeah.
Okay.
We will do that.
Thank you. Okay. Bye bye. Thank you.